God will fix it. God intended this to happen. God doesn't want me to get up. If God wanted me to get up, he would come grab my hand and pick me up and get me out of bed. God intended me to be lazy because I feel lazy. That's what I get from it.
Okay, so I'm going to go literally to the scripture. For I know the plans I have for you. Right?
Okay.
That's God speaking. For I know the plans I have for you. The plans don't go into such a detail. That's never what God said.
God said I'm lazy.
Plans for you to prosper. Plans
lazy.
for you to succeed.
Well, God wouldn't have made me lazy if he didn't intend for it.
That's not what he said. And that's what I mean is this is what a lot of people do. This is where the religious gets into an argument, right? It's a perspective. Again, we're reading it and interpreting what we get out of text.
The one thing I know.
The same thing that started this whole entire thing, right? It's all text and we're giving it in perspective. Yeah. I believe God has a plan for me. I do believe that. But I also believe that it's because of the choice that he allowed me because he gave us the right to choose. That's real love. When you choose someone when it's hard, that's love. That's what God did. So,
and the story, and I'll mess it up, but you'll get the point. There's a guy on a boat that's sinking, and another boat comes by, and they offer him help. Say, hey man, you need a lift? And he says, no, God's got me. Mm-hmm. And then it sends a branch or a life jacket's floating by, and he's just there praying for God to save him. And then when the boat goes down and he dies and he drowns, and he's like, why didn't you save me? And God's like, I sent someone to pick you up. There's like 3 to 4 different examples.
Right.
You got to move your feet.
Yep. And
you just certainly, if we're talking about abuse or toxicity or bad habits or any of that kind of stuff, you don't just, this must be God's plan.
Yeah.
I am always willing to argue with anybody that says I don't have a choice. Anybody out there, if you're listening right now and you want to say, I didn't have a choice, I am more than willing to debate with you.
Well, it also goes back to the, in the Christian side of things where people say stuff like that. Well, this is what God intended, and this is where I'm supposed to be because God. I always think of the quote in the Bible. It says, "Faith without works is dead." So you can have all the faith in the world, like the guy in the damn ocean, having all the faith that God was going to come out of the sky and grab his hand. But without, God taught you how to freaking swim. You better start swimming. Faith without works. So put in the work. God gave you the ability. He's an ableist. God gave him the ableist to swim. And
the post does say, chase the life you want, right?
Yeah.
And I think obviously by the comments and what we're doing here, everybody goes right to, the financial side of things. But the life you want, that could be so much, a shift in perspective. Maybe you always wanted to paint, whether you have hands or not. It's possible.
I've seen people paint with their toes, and I've seen people paint with their mouth, and they were amazing at it.
Maybe you always wanted to travel, but you can't drive. There's a way.
It's called Uber.
Yes, you get what I'm saying.
It's called a bus.
I'm just trying I'm trying to paint. Somebody is in a perspective that it's their prison.
Aladdin
There's
had a
people
rug.
making those comments. They're imprisoned by their perspective, and perhaps just a shift in that perspective could empower them and change their entire lives. If nothing else, let's just say that whatever the life they want is impossible, which I don't even like that. Yeah. But let's say theoretically it is impossible. Just the belief that it's possible and the pursuit would change everything.
Everything.
And then they wouldn't be sitting there so miserable they're looking for positive posts to comment nasty things on.
Yeah.
That's a bad place.
To people, the reason your life is so miserable is because all you do all day is focus on why your life is so miserable. You're not focusing 100%. On what you can do to get out of it, right?
Yeah. That's the suffering.
They're choosing. That's what I mean. Everything in life is a choice, period. No matter what it is. And that's why we talked about this in the past. So many people are looking for something outside of them to fill something inside of them. What they're looking for is happiness. What they really want is joy. Joy is a state of mind. Happiness is a dopaminergic response to what you get. It's like a reward system, right? That's happiness. What you really want is joy.
Absolutely.
Joy is a state of mind.
Yep.
I wake up in the morning and I am happy. It pisses my wife off because I'm awake.
Brian's
I don't need coffee.
Way.
I'm ready to rock. Where do you want to go? Let's hit the gym. I don't care. Like, I'm ready to go because I'm excited. Yeah. But I was excited when I went to bed, so I'm just waking up the same way.
You woke up up on purpose.
Yes.
You know what their true disability is?
What, buddy?
Hopelessness.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. How many likes and shares did you say that post had? Over 100,000.
Yeah.
And the majority of them are positive, right?
Absolutely.
And people are sharing it. When you're that hopeless and negative that you're scrolling and you come across a meme that over 100,000 people are inspired by, and you get into an argument, that is a disability. You're
right.
It's the negativity is seeping out of them. They're stuck and they're hopeless. And when somebody says that you can do something about it, or maybe that there's a way out, they lash out. They get mad.
How dare
you tell me that this has any result, or I have any responsibility for this? Not only is it not my fault, but I can't get out of it. I'm stuck here for life. And
I'm gonna tell you, like, being stuck in addiction for 20 years, like, I absolutely never in a million years thought I could ever get out of that thing alive.
Yeah.
Being in the hopeless state of mind that I was in, there was never even a glimpse of the future. Of course, it was long before. If I had saw a meme like this when I was in addiction, I probably would have got sober just like that. I want to read one more comment because this goes on. I'm able. No, but seriously, though, like, man, like, come on, like, I was hopeless. I was homeless. I had no dollars in my pocket. I was drug addicted, alcohol, and just seeping out of me, in and out of prisons and jails and hospitals and people, it's just, I would rather punch you in the face than have a conversation with you, and if I can come out of that, which is technically an illness, addiction is a disease, it's a disease of the mind. If I can come out of that with nothing and start to make some gains in my life and start to make some happiness and some joy in my life, then damn it, anybody can. I changed my perspective. I changed my outlook on life. I finally said I can't. I stopped saying I can't and started saying maybe that's possible. Maybe I can do that. Maybe, if I, and like Brian said a minute ago, the things that I was looking at probably weren't that possible for me. But me going after them, the journey it took to go after them, even though it was unattainable, it changed my life. It changed my life completely. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, one simple shift in perspective could absolutely transform a person from enablest to enableist. So I'm not against these comments. I'm trying to convert them.
Yeah, well, okay, so convert this one.
Hallelujah!
This is another perspective
Love it.
Of a victim mindset in modern days world, right? So check this one out. We just got out of a pandemic.
Okay.
Right
is that like pansexual, or is that something else?
Something else.
Because I missed it.
Yeah, I didn't notice it. But anyway, we just got out of a pandemic. Tell the government to lower rent and pay more. And you know what? Like, he is probably, there's millions of him that think the government's going to come and save them. And the government has the ability to lower the rent, and the government has the ability to pay more.
Yep.
FYI,
your building is not being rented by the government.
That was the whole comment.
Yes.
That was it. Yeah.
Is he making that same comment? Is it copy and paste on everything on Facebook?
Yeah, go to Europe.
That has nothing to do with
Europe.
Oh my God. Well, so yeah, it's just another example of the millions I see. Millions, that's a lot. The hundreds
you
I see.
You see a lot of people.
I do.
Jeez, you must get around.
The hundreds I see every day of people just blaming the government, blaming, their where they're at in life on other people, becoming victims, and everybody's against me, and they're watching the mass media television tell them that they're a victim and they can't do things, and the government's out to get them, and these other right or left wing people are bad, and it's just like, oh my God, like, government, please lower my rent and pay me more.
So I could go chase my dream.
No, I got the solution. Go to California.
Oh God.
There's tents everywhere.
Yeah, tent
Rent
city,
is
baby.
free.
Well, let's just talk about perspective.
Okay.
Maybe there's somebody that's living in that tent and they're perfectly blissful.
I want to get into that too, right? Because there's thousands of comments of people saying, I am completely content in where I am in life. I don't need the chase anymore. Like, and it goes back to the Gary Vee statements. Like, there's people out there who make,
$40,000 a year,
$40,000 a year,
and that is life.
Yeah, and they enjoy being a father, and they enjoy coming home in the evening and having dinner with their kids and spending the weekends at ball games. And by all means, fuck yeah.
They're already living
know?
their
Yeah,
dream.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
It's awesome. This post wasn't
You have
for you.
arrived. Yep, love it.
This post wasn't for
Yeah.
you. It's really for the people. It's for the unableist, and it's for the victim mindset who is stuck in a situation, and it's Groundhog Day every day, and it just keeps happening and keeps happening. It's like, okay, if you're unhappy in your life, period, then here's what you can do. I got into that jail cell, and everything that I used to be attracted to was suddenly, for lack of better words, disgusting to me. Mm-hmm. I'm 35 years old. I'm looking at all these 20-year-old kids who was basically me at 20, and I'm just turned off by the whole situation. So what I did is instead of partaking in all the stuff I partake in, I decided to basically isolate myself and get into reading self-help books, mindset books, and all these different books that I could find.
That's it right
You know
there.
what I mean?
You were only... When someone pulls the victim card on me, you are only a victim of your own mind. That is it. Because everything that you think you're going to, like, everybody goes through crap. I don't want to hear your sob story. We're not going to compare trophies. You know what I mean? Like,
Ninth place trophies.
my life sucked at one point too. And today I still get kicked in the face. Plenty.
Right.
Right? I had to pay $3,000 to get a tree knocked down, so it doesn't knock down all the cabins because it's just dropping limbs like bombs.
Yeah.
No, most people would, that sucks. And I'm going to have to go spend $9,000 on a quad to drag all that stuff out because they all weigh 400 pounds apiece, right? Like, I am not going to play the victim to my reality because I understand where I'm at now. Marty Norman, tell us about 47X.
Oh, yeah, 47X. Okay, we're going to talk about recovery then.
Yeah.
My subject, my life, my everything. Recovery, babe. So 47X was a company that I started in 2016. And basically I was in the to start from the beginning, right? I was in 2 years in recovery. I did a year of it in the county jail, got out to a year's house arrest, got my first apartment. You know, I was working at a factory as a worked my way up, that's a whole story too. That's a great story, but I worked my way up from a temporary, making $7.50 an hour as a temp through a temp service, and worked my way up in that year as a maintenance mechanic in this factory that I was working at, which was it went from $7.50 to almost $20 an hour. So, I mean, I'd love to tell the story on that because that's a great story. And it's all about determination and mindset and having to walk to an hour and 10 minutes to work every day in the rain and sleet and all that, just grinding and being happy about it, happy that I'm free, happy that I'm sober, happy that I'm living a life, even though I didn't have $5 in my pocket, and you know what I mean? But 2 years in recovery, I got the opportunity to purchase this house, and with the caveat to open up a sober living, to help addicts and alcoholics on their path to recovery. But so one of the things I kept talking about, I bought the house, right? And I started with the intention of only helping a few guys, right? I'm going to help a few guys find their pathway, if you will. Me and Brian Kendrick. And in that process, within a week we had 5 guys. Within 2 weeks our house was full, which was like 9 people. And then trying to determine on how we're going to, because I knew I've been in enough recovery, I've been in enough sober living, I've been in a few treatment centers and hospitals and homeless. I knew every side of addiction.
So
that you
Marty likes to overdo it because there are only 12 steps in the program, but Marty went to 47.
I do. There is. I believe there's 47. This is where it came from. Like I started talking about, it's everything. What I was really in tuned with at the time, hyper focused on the little things that mattered, because I lived in this world where little things don't matter, good or bad, right? None of it matters. What's the end thing? I want to get to there. I don't care what it takes to get to there. I just want that end result. And I started noticing and becoming hyper focused and aware of the little bitty things in my day, right? And I started telling people, the world could change. You can change the world, if you will, by opening the door for somebody at the gas station. I talk about this one instances where I smoked cigarettes back then, right? So I would, I would I would throw my cigarette butts on the ground unconsciously. I would unwrap my cigarette wrappers and throw the cellophane and the little piece of aluminum on the ground, and I'd light my cigarette. Just unconsciously, that's how I lived my life. Just, I'd get in my car and I would drive and never think about a seatbelt. You know what I mean? And there was this instance with the cigarette thing. So I ripped it off, threw it on the ground, and my sponsor was standing there. He's like, "Hey, what are you doing?" I'm like, "Smoking a cigarette." He's like, "No, what is that?" And I'm 2 years in recovery, and this is my behavior. This is the type of person I was. And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "Pick that shit up." I'm like, first off, ego started. Like, who the F are you?
Yep.
And in front of everybody.
Yep.
So therefore my ego is even bigger.
Yep.
Like, how dare you? I'll show you who I am, And anyway, so I bent down and I picked it up because he's my sponsor and there's people around and they're all, you know what I mean? I'm embarrassed. That's the honest feeling, is embarrassment. I picked it down and threw it away, right? Next few days, I do it again and I throw it on the ground and I'm not thinking about it. Somebody that was standing there said, "Hey, bro, didn't you just get in trouble for that last week?" I'm like, "Sure." And I pick it up and I throw it away. The next time I do it, I throw it on the ground and I'm like, I catch myself, right? I catch myself. I reach down, pick it up, throw it away. All right. The next time I undo it and I go to throw it and I stop myself. Right? And I throw it away. And now every single time, see, habits are formed, good or bad. It takes several times to develop a habit. There's a whole thing where it takes 28 days to develop a habit, good or bad, right? I agree with that. But it doesn't seem like much with the cigarette thing, right? But it's those little things throughout my day that develop who I am as a human being, who I am as a man. Am I the type of person to litter just because I do and that's what I do? Or am I a person who is practicing taking control of my mind, taking control of my behaviors, and taking control of who I present myself to be? And, as far as I'm concerned, if you consider yourself a man and you're not opening the door for the person coming in front of you, and if you're littering your cigarette, you're flicking your cigarette butt on the ground and all these other little things, and I talk about mastery of self, right? If you can't master who you are as a human being, who you are as a man, who you are as a woman, whatever, then how are you going to master anything else in your life, right? So it's the 47 things in your day that one at a time don't really mean anything, right? I mean, you could say that they don't mean anything, but if you put all 47 of those things in your day and you add them all up and you changed each one of those things from a negative to a positive, the opening the door, the doing, the not littering, the saying when somebody walks by and you're smiling at them and saying hello, like that could change somebody's life and you don't even know it.
I started doing it on purpose. Like, so we call it pattern interruption in like the psychology world.
Right.
Right?
I mean, that person, you don't know what that person's
going through.
going
The good way to deal with something and to help somebody break a habit is called pattern interruption. So that's what your sponsor did. You went about your normal thing. You were in an autopilot. I'm going to throw it. And then somebody interrupted your pattern joltingly and made you think for a second enough that the next time that someone called, you were like, yeah, crap. And then you went right back to the other memory because your normal autopilot got interrupted.
Yeah.
So after you've interrupted your autopilot a few more times, now you're in focused thinking.
Yeah.
So if you want to create new things, you have to learn how to interrupt your patterns. So they interrupted your patterns, created a new pattern because now you were hyper thinking about it. Imagine if you do that with 47 different things in your day.
That's it.
It is life-changing.
It is.
It quite literally is life-changing all the way to, I wake up, my wife's still in bed, it's early, once I've gotten going and she gets up, I don't really want to go make the bed, but I know that sets the tone for my day.
Yeah.
I don't
It's
like
everything.
necessarily taking the cold shower. It's very jolting. Now, once I get through the first few seconds of it, it's fun. But the first few seconds always sucks.
Fun is the word he used.
Like it always sucks, and then you just get like this euphoric feeling of like, but that's interruption. Again, for my whole life, I just took a normal, comfortable hot shower, except for when I was homeless. Yeah. And then cold showers were a necessity, and again, they weren't that bad then because you just wanted to get clean.
Yeah.
It's funny how much we get so used to like the comfort of our normal day, and we don't think outside of ourselves.
Yeah.
I used to open the door and expect a thank you. And I would get irritated when I didn't get one.
Right.
But then I had to check myself.
Like, what's my motives?
Yeah.
And am I doing it because I want a thank you?
But I had to check myself because one day someone checked me because they've heard me talking and saying things. And one day somebody opened the door. I was not having a good day. And I just said, you're welcome.
Yeah.
And they were like, oh, does that make you feel better? And I was like, what? And they're like, do you really need a thank you from that person? Because you preach a lot about other things.
Yeah.
And that changed the way that I opened a door today.
Yeah.
Pattern interruption. Holy crap, I'm talking about it. I let the world get to me and then I changed my way. And now I need to go back to what matters. I'm not doing it for myself completely.
Well, I mean, that's why.
So it's not about getting a thank you.
Well,
like, I'm here to open the door and just be nice. It's just about a kind gesture.
Isn't it in the book where it says, don't let your right hand know what your left hand does, kind of thing? And that's why I tell everybody about, holding somebody accountable is one thing. This is a different subject, but holding somebody accountable for something is great. That's what we do as brothers. That's what we do as sisters. That's what we do in recovery. That's what we do in the job. But check your motives. Why are you opening that door? Are you opening it to get that recognition of thank you, or are you doing it because that's who you are as a person?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And it's easy to fall into these things. That's why having people in your corner call you out on your BS is so important. Community is everything.
Well, again, we've talked about this 1,000 times. They're looking for an outside thing to fix an inside problem.
We have to change the way that we think. We have to change our perspective. We have to quit running from things when they're hard and hoping to find that pill that will just fix us, and trusting the big pharma and that they're out to help you, because it's not the case. And if history has taught us anything, you look back on any kind of medications, they're taken off the shelf after a period of time, after people die, and it's what happens. It's just
there's like a commercial later. If you were involved in this medication, there's a lawsuit.
Yes, it happens all the time. And just like with the jab, they say, take it. You got to take it. You're SOB if you don't take it.
Oh,
and people were lining up. People were lining up. Oh, they said we have to. So come on. The culprit in all illnesses, in all sicknesses across the West, the Western culture.
1,000%.
I think that...
I don't think I know.
There's a couple of corporations and companies and whatnot that are solely responsible for a lot of our problems in America mainly.
Yeah.
But we're going to talk about Big Pharma today.
Yeah, absolutely. We need to talk about Big Pharma today, and there's a purpose behind it. So this isn't just...
Hold on, please, Big Pharma, don't come after us.
No, knock on my door. Let's have a conversation about this.
Let's sit down and chat about how you
on our next shirt
people.
Run on the back. It's going to say, let's talk about it, because let's talk about it. I'm down to talk about it.
Did you just now come up with that?
I am like a plethora of ideas.
Did you just pop that out though? Was that like something you already thought of?
Yeah, no.
Let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it.
Ooh, I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. That's our new
we
slogan.
should talk about it. Yes.
That's our new slogan, Chris. Can we spam the crap out of
Let's talk about it.
All right,
I love it. So
so first more, Brian.
Yes, I am still Brian Gordon.
I'm Marty Norman.
Yes,
Brian.
Yes,
let's talk about it.
Okay, I love it. Here we go. Our new intro is going to be no longer live, but we're going to talk about it.
Let's just talk about it, man.
Yeah.
Because listen, from not understanding or knowing exactly where you're going to go down what rabbit hole you choose to go down on this, like, I have a big problem with Big Pharma. I have a big problem with a couple other government organizations. I have a big problem with what's happening. And what I fail to understand is how, as Americans, how informed and how smart we possibly could be on information, right? We can get any kind of information we want, and we need to choose where we get our information, of course, but like, how do we not see that Big Pharma is so corrupt?
So psychology became like huge in the 80s, right? We started to see a mental health shift in the 80s. Psychology took a big shift. Psychology's been around since the like mid to late 1800s, right? Like that's when the big psychologists became quite famous. Like they really started to study the brain and understand why people are the way they are, because we started to get more advanced in some technologies and have the ability to test and check things out. In the 80s, it became big, and what they started to notice is as we started to pump all of the antidepressants in, was that a lot of money came with it.
Yeah.
So
with money
comes power. With power comes corruption. With corruption comes the rest, right? So I've been noticing a pattern. But before I even get into this, for those of you that have been listening to our podcast, I want you to listen to me very, very carefully. If you don't believe in the power of manifestation, here is actual proof, because I have been speaking about this. And I am not Nostradamus, and I can't force people to do things.
Are you sure you don't believe that?
Well, I mean, maybe. It is possible, I guess. Because at this point, I'm starting to feel a little powerful in my manifestation,
So
right?
Good, so good, yeah.
Like, I have been hyper-focused on the patterns of the world and what has been happening and how to create change, because that's the whole point of this podcast. We're trying to create change. So I've been hyper-focused and meditating and manifesting and focusing, okay? So last week, we talked about Ozempic. That just happened to be something that I wanted to do at CVS as like a prank, right? It was just a funny thing to do, right? As I'm researching more about this, because I thought I would dig deeper, somebody else launches something which is a Coke whistleblower. And he brings up.
Oh, the Coca-Cola. Mm-hmm. Okay.
So he brings up Ozempic and their big push during that podcast. Then I'm flipping through the channels and I see another picture, which I'll pull up right now and show it to the camera. I made my wife take a picture because I don't want to get up and get my phone. Now, the skinny shot, right? So here it is. It's called the skinny shot now. And no, this is ABC News is doing a special on Ozempic and the other big new weight loss that's quick. Okay. Now, I know a lot about when it comes to diet, exercise, and what this would be considered a steroid. Okay. I have done steroids.
Okay.
There is a way to do any drug properly.
Sure.
Blood work, tests, measures, levels. You check your hemoglobin, you check your thyroid, you check everything. Like, you run a full panel.
Yeah.
If you want to get into the safest version of pushing your body to the limits. So clenbuterol is also an asthma medication, which is actually what Ozempic is.
Oh,
the side effect of it is that it burns fat. That's what helps people that are suffering from
Well, it's because
asthma.
your heart runs 1,000 miles, 1,000 beats a minute.
Right. So,
you know what I mean?
But it helps burn off the excess fatty tissues and a lot of other organs in your body that affect things. And that's why it helps asthma.
Okay.
So they're pushing this as the new quick weight loss. I'm going to tell you right now, there's no such thing. And it is extremely unhealthy. So if you want to take clenbuterol properly, every professional in the world will tell you 6 weeks.
Tops.
That's because it can be very damaging to the body, because you're shutting down your body's other abilities to burn fat. You're going to mess up your thyroid. You're going to mess up your heart. There's so many side effects to taking this medication long term.
I think that's across the board, though, right?
Of course it is.
Yeah, that's across the board.
Well, what they're not understanding is that they're pushing this as like a long term medication.
Sure.
And you're going to end up stuck on it, and they know it.
And they don't care.
It's going to end up becoming a lifelong. This is what you need to maintain weight loss. This is how we're going to get America healthy again, right?
So,
or you could just eat properly, stop being a lazy ass, and maybe do something about your life and eat clean foods. We just talked to Brian about this. He didn't go do this crazy diet program. He just cleaned up the food that he was putting in his body.
Yeah.
And your body responds to that the way it's supposed to for thousands of years when all this other stupid crap wasn't out there. Yeah. I just had it was my wife's client that went to like Spain or France and came back and was like, there are no overweight people there. They're very hard to find.
It's true. It's true.
Like, it was shocking to her because she was like, I literally was confused.
You can't go anywhere in America without seeing obesity.
Nowhere.
Right? You can't go anywhere. You can't go to any gas station. You can't go to any store. You can't go to any restaurant. You can't go without seeing a direct. And that's the thing. Like, again, this is what these organizations and relying on outside, big entities, big pharma, if you will. Mm-hmm. This is what the danger is. They've always created a problem, and this is historically. I could name 5 of them right now where they create a problem, and then the same people that created the problem create the solution.
Of course.
So it's just money across the board.
Absolutely.
And then that solution is they never want to end that solution. And the same thing, say they created the obesity problem in America, right? The FDA, the separate Monsanto, all these different companies that all pretty much work for the same people, the same 5 families, you know, and their whole goal is to make us sick, make us docile, make us dumb, make us be good slaves so we can go to work, and that's it. That's all we need to do.
Absolutely.
And hopefully with the food they feed us that we will get sick, we will get cancer, and we'll be on their medications.
Again, my manifestation brain is like just firing on all cylinders right now because we just talked about this.
Yes.
Like we literally just talked about the things that you're bringing up right now when I brought up, I don't know, 2 weeks ago. If you want to improve your life, become great at solving problems. If you want to make money, become a good problem solver.
Oh, there you go. But
so,
if you get
hold on, now they're solving 2 problems.
If you get corrupt,
so now it's double the money.
If you get corrupt, you create the problem.
But think about it. They first have said, we have your problem solving. We're going to go ahead and cure your weight problem with this drug. And then later on, when you're having other problems, they're going to say, well, now you need to take this drug and it'll fix that part. So this is just like a nonstop.
Your liver is shutting down.
We're fixing your problems, and people will always pay to have their problems fixed.
Thank you for joining us, guys. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do. Send us over to your friend, and let's go by this slogan, man. Let's talk about it.
Absolutely.
Later, guys.